Hey crafty friends, today we are going to sew this adorable elephant felt plushie. This is a great project for kids with a little bit of adult supervision or beginner hand sewers who just want a simple and easy craft. I have a free pattern on my website, which is linked in the description below. Go ahead, click that link, print your pattern, come back here, and we can sew this together. To sew this cute elephant felt plushie, you're going to need the following supplies. Some felt in the color that you want your elephant to be. I have gray for the body and some white for the tusks. You don't have to do tusks if you want them. Choose whatever color you want. Some scissors to cut out your felt width. This is embroidery floss. It is just thicker thread. I have black for the elephant's eyes and gray to match this felt over here. For when I sew it together, something to trace your pattern with. A needle to sew with. This is an embroidery floss needle. It's a little special in that it just has a bigger eye up here, which makes it easier to thread this thicker thread. If you don't have embroidery floss or you don't want to use embroidery floss, you can just use regular sewing thread. It is a little bit thinner and you're probably going to want to double it up. So anytime that I'm using a single strand of embroidery floss, just double up your sewing thread. And then something to stuff your plushie with. This is polyfill. It can be found at the craft store. It's what's in most stuffed animals. You can also use things you find around your home. I've used felt scraps. I have used cotton balls. I have used ripped up plastic bags. So use what you have. And finally, the pattern. I have a link to a free pattern on my website. And it's in the description below. So again, go ahead, click that link in the description, print your pattern, cut it out, come back here, and let me give you a few instructions before we trace it and cut it out. Once you have all your pattern pieces cut out, it's time to start tracing. Now, as you're getting your pieces ready to trace, don't just toss them in the middle of your felt. Put them as close to the edge that you can. This will just maximize your felt for this and future projects. And all of these that say cut to, trace them one time on the side with the words, and then flip it over. And the second time you trace it on the back side without words. This will just make the pieces come together a little bit better when we're sewing. So I am going to trace everything but this tusk on gray, and then I'm going to trace the tusk on white. So go ahead, pause the video, get your pieces traced, and then come back here before you start cutting. I've just got a few small instructions for that. Did you know there are 3 main species of elephants? African savanna elephant, African forest elephant, and Asian elephants. Once you have all your pattern pieces traced, it's time to start cutting them out. Cut in slow, small cuts. And as you're cutting around your pattern, try to cut off your tracing marks and then hang on to any of this scrap felt because again, it's great filler for the inside of your plushie. So go ahead, pause this video, get all your pattern pieces cut out, and then we get to start piecing it together a bit. Of the species of elephants, African elephants have larger ears than Asian elephants because they flap them to help keep them cool. Once you have all your pattern pieces cut out, it's time to start doing a little bit of stitching. So I like to start by putting my pieces together to see how they go. So I've got the back side of my elephant right here. This is the front side. And I am going to take my black thread. I'm going to thread my needle. You can see I'm covered with marker. And I'm going to put the 2 ends of my thread together and tie a loop knot with both ends of this together. I usually put my finger over where that knot is and then pull on the needle side to tighten it up. Check over your piece, see if you have any tracing lines showing up on it. If you do, just flip it the other way. And you'll want to do that with both of your pieces. This is why we trace them on both sides. So you can see this one has a little bit of marker lines right here at the top on that side, but they don't show up on this side, which means I want this side out and the tracing line side in. So I'm going to look at my elephant again. Whoop. Let's see. I want the eye to be right there. I'm pinching it. And then going from the back side or the side with my tracing lines, I'm pushing my needle through, but not pulling it all the way. I'm going to leave a tail here. And then pretty close to where I came out, I'm going to go back in. And I'm going to put my needle through the middle of these 2 threads to make a knot. So now I have an eye here. It's kind of small for me, so I usually go around it about 4 times. So I'm going to stick my needle back through, kind of close to it. And as I'm going back, I'm just going to cross over or go into where I did this first knot. And I'm just going to do that 4 times. This is going to make the eye bigger. All right, and now with my bigger eye, I want to knot off my string. So I'm going to stick it in between one of these threads here, and I'm going to take this tail end where it's coming out, and I'm going to wrap it twice over the top of my needle. So there's 1, 2. I'm going to put my thumb there to hold it in place, pull my needle out, and then I have my eye knotted and I can trim that thread. And I'm going to repeat these same steps with the other side of my elephant. So I do want both sides to match up. So I'm going to do the other knot on this side with the messy knots in here. So the messy knots match up and the tidy knots are on the outside. Once you have eyes sewn on both of your elephant pieces, so you can see when I put them together, I've got the messy side of my knots inside and the tidy sides are outside. If you want to add tusks, this is the time to add tusks. I'm going to lay them up and I'm just going to add I'm going to put my trunk and my ears on so that I can better see where I want my tusk line to be. Actually, I think I want it down a little bit. Okay, and just like we did with the eyes, I'm going to take this time some white thread to match my tusks. You can also use gray. Tying another loop knot with both these threads, pulling it through. I'm going to take this piece off. I feel good about where that tusk is. I'm going to go from the back of my felt. Pull this almost all the way, but not quite. And then I'm going to go back through close, but not exactly where that knot was. And then over here, I'm going to put it again through the middle of those 2 threads, pull it tight, and this time I'm just going to do a single stitch. So I'm going to put my needle back through this bundle of threads, wrap it once, twice over the top. And this is going to give me a tusk. So my tusk is attached. I'm going to repeat those steps for the second tusk. Once you have both of your tusks attached, we're going to go ahead and attach the legs and the ears of our elephant. So again, I'm doing another loop knot. Got both my strands here together. I'm pulling them through and then pulling my needle straight and tight at the end. And you can see I've placed my legs and my ears on my elephant where I want them to be. And again, we're going to do that single stitch. So I'm going to go through both pieces of felt, pull my needle almost to the end and not quite, and then I'm going to go back through pretty close to where that first stitch was, pulling it tight this time. Back here, I'm going to go through the middle of that knot, pull that tight, and then I'm sticking my needle into this bundle of threads right here, doing it once, twice over the top, putting my thumb there to hold it in place as I pull my needle out and snip that thread. Got one leg attached. I'm going to do the same thing for the other legs, the ears on both sides of my elephant. Again, making sure that my knot stitches are on the inside each time I sew it. So go ahead, pause this video, get your legs and your ears sewn on. We'll come back here and then we get to start putting our elephant all the way together. As you're doing this, do not sew on the trunk or the tail. Did you know that elephants' trunks have 40,000 muscles in them? As I'm attaching the ear, I'm just going to attach it right here in this top corner so that it can flap forward a little bit. Elephants use their ears to fan themselves, and I want to be able to kind of mimic that with my toy. There's all the knots on the inside, the tidy stitches on the outside. Here's my messy stitches, so I'm going to flip this one over, do the same thing. Once you have all of your pieces sewn together, you should have them looking kind of like mirror images of each other with messy knots on the inside so that they line up really nicely. And now we get to start actually sewing this together. So this time I'm taking my embroidery floss. I usually measure from about my fingertips to my shoulder. If you go too much more than that, it gets to be a lot to manage and it's more likely to tangle. This time, instead of tying both of the ends together, I'm doing a knot at the end of just one of my pieces. And then I am going to do my first stitch on this elephant. I usually like to do it under these back legs so it's hidden a little bit. And for this, we are going to get the 2 edges of our felt lined up really nice together. We're going to stick our needle through it, pull it clear almost to the end, and because we don't have 2 threads this time, we just have one, we're going to kind of stick it in the middle of this embroidery floss, pull it down, and then if you've got a tail, I usually just kind of push it up the inside of my elephant and tighten it up again. Now we are going to do a modified blanket stitch all the way until where we're going to start attaching this tail. So maybe take your tail, see where you want it to be. Mine's going to be about right there, so I'm going to do a blanket stitch up to here. And the way that we do a blanket stitch, we go through both pieces of felt with our needle, pause with your needle in, We're going to pull the end of our thread over the top of our needle, and then we're going to pull it all the way out. And then we're going to move down a little bit, pause with my needle through, put the tail over the top, pull it all the way through. We're just going to keep doing this stitch until we're ready to add that tail. Now that I've gotten to the point where I'm ready to add my tail, we're going to do what's called a running stitch, which I think is even easier. So we're just going to go through all your pieces of felt, pull the needle all the way to the end, and then on the side you went through, you're going to go back through the other direction. Make sure you're getting all your pieces of felt. And we're just going to do this the whole length of the tail. Make sure you're getting all 3 pieces of felt. And once we're past the tail, we're going to continue with that blanket stitch going all the way around until the trunk, and we're going to attach the trunk again with a running stitch. As you're sewing, do your best just to make sure the 2 edges of your felt are lined together. Blanket stitch, go through both pieces, grab the tail, pull it over the top. If you run out of thread partway through this, do the knot stitch like we did with the legs, where you just wrap the thread around your needle twice and then leave the tail of your thread inside your elephant. Grab a new piece and do a knot stitch like we did at the beginning of sewing this with your new thread and keep going. Did you know baby elephants are called calves and they can weigh up to 200 pounds at birth? Once you get around the curve of the head with your blanket stitch, take a second, get your trunk added. Angle it however you want it. If you want it spraying more at the elephant, you can spray. If you want it feeding itself, so decide how you want your trunk to look. Get it placed in your elephant, and then we're going to go back to that running stitch while we're adding this trunk. So again, the running stitch is just in all the way through, and then back on the same side that you came out on, back all the way through. Did you know that elephants are known to be very caring? They often help injured or sick members of their herd. After you've got your trunk added, we're going to go back to that blanket stitch until we're right past this first set of legs. We're going to pause and we're going to add our stuffing. Right now I'm putting in any threads and I'm bending the tusks back as I'm going around it and going back to my blanket stitch through both pieces of felt, pulling that ending thread over the top. Through both pieces, grab the tail of my thread over the top, bending these tusks back so I don't accidentally sew them into my elephant as I'm going past. Did you know that elephant skin can be up to 1 inch thick, but it's also sensitive enough that they can still feel a fly landing on it? Once we get to under these first front legs, we get to start filling our elephant. So if you're using felt scraps, grab your scraps. If you're using polyfill, grab your fill. You want to start by stuffing the things that are furthest away first. So I'm going to start with his head and kind of the back over here. If your scraps are too big to fit in it easily, you can cut them down smaller. Just take a wad, smush them inside, and use your fingers. Sometimes I use the back of a pencil or my scissors to get them into places that are too far for my fingers to reach. And get them smushed in. Okay, once your elephant is stuffed, we're going to go back to that blanket stitch and we are going to blanket stitch all the way back to our starting stitch, and then we'll tie it off. It's going to be a little trickier to sew now because you're full of stuffing, so you might just need to push it in with your fingers as you go. Try just to grab the 2 edges of felt, pull your stitches tight as you go. Did you know that elephants can eat up to 300 pounds of food in a single day? And they often live in family groups called herds that are led by a matriarch, which is a female elephant. All right, so I'm back to my starting stitch. I'm going to go through it one more time. I'm going to grab the tail of this and I'm going to wrap it twice over my needle instead of once. So 1, 2. I'm going to put my thumb to hold it in place as I pull it real tight. And then carefully, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to poke it into my elephant and out the side, making sure my fingers are far away so it's not going to get cut. I'm going to pull this thread tight, trim it, and then wiggle that into my elephant. And I'll take a second to reposition him. And here we are with our finished elephant felt plushie. I hope you had a good time putting this together. I know that I did. If you like this or you want more easy hand sew project, be sure to come back. I have a new pattern and sew along posted every Monday. And if you enjoyed this, I would love if you could like, share, follow, comment, all the things, and I will see you next week.